Hey everyone, this is Jared again, bringing you guys another Druid guide. This time around it's going to be Boomkin. This is for the 4.3 patch. I'm going to start this one off the exact same way, actually, as the way that I started out my Resto guide. I give you the stat breakdown. Of course, first is Intellect. Self-explanatory. The spell power into that, obviously. Then you want to make sure, first and foremost, that your hit rating is at 17%. And you get hit from Spirit as Boomkin, so Spirit gear is definitely useful. As a matter of fact, we love Spirit gear. After you get your hit as close to 17% as possible, it's haste, then mastery, and then critical hit. Crit. Yes. Haste, mastery, and crit. You heard that right, people. Pretty much haste first after hit, because the more haste you have stacked, the faster you cast things, which means the faster you can get things off, and the more things you can get off during an eclipse, and the more ticks that your damage over time spells have. So everything faster equals more stuff equals more DPS, which we all love. Then after haste, you're going to want to do mastery, like I said. And our mastery as Balance Druids increases damage from eclipses by 28% at the base, like just straight up without any points in mastery. It's 28%, and then for every point in mastery, you get 2% added to that 28%. So definitely doing more things and having them hit harder is obviously going to be the best route. And then crit, like I said, you know, if you're doing more damage to more things and doing them faster, you know, you're not really going to need too much crit. I mean, crit's never a bad thing, but you get more use out of mastery and haste. Just leaving it at that. I'm not going to go over all my talents. I'm just going to go over a few points. Most people, you know, like elitist jerks people, they, you know, try to move all this stuff around. I prefer having utility over just, well, actually I do have raw numbers, but I also have utility in that I did take Typhoon, which I'm thinking about taking this 1 point in Perseverance out and putting it in Gale Winds. It's debatable depending on the fight and depending on your raid comp, depending on if you're having any trouble, or if your healers are having any trouble keeping everyone up. You know, having a little bit magic damage decrease never really hurts anything, but also, you know, having increased damage, not that, you know, you're constantly using Typhoon or Cyclone for that matter, but, you know, it still could help. But as of right now, I do not have that point in Gale Winds. It is in Perseverance. I did do the 9 point in Restoration spec, obviously. That's pretty much it. My glyphs that I'm using Moonfire, which increases periodic damage of Moonfire by 20%, which in effect increases the amount of initial damage that your Moonfire does. If you have the talent Sunfire and Lunar Shower, which every balanced druid should have that. If you don't, you know, you probably shouldn't be playing a druid. But since you are, I'm telling you now, you need those two talents. But yeah, that's very helpful. Glyph of Insect Swarm increases the the damage by 30% of Insect Swarm, and Glyph of Wrath. The reason I didn't do Starsurge is because really you don't need you know, that 5 seconds to be taken off every time you use Starsurge on your Starfall, because you're really not using. I mean, it's got a 1 minute cooldown, so it's a relatively short cooldown as far as DPS cooldowns go. You don't really need it too much, so you're using a lot more Wrath than you are Starfall, so increasing the damage by 10% on Wrath is a lot more useful. My major glyphs are Focus, that increases the damage of Starfall by 10% and decreases its radius by 50%, which is very, very, very useful. You won't have random stars going off and pulling trash and wiping the raid and, you know, blah blah blah, getting all the QQ from all your fellow raiders. I do have Glyph of Rebirth because, like I said in my resto guide, no one wants to be battle resed with 30% health. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. And then Glyphs of Starfall reduces the cooldown of Starfall by 30 seconds. Again, I have that because it is a lot better than having the glyph that decreases the cooldown by 5 seconds every time you use Starsurge, because of the fact that, you know, you don't need to be dependent on Starsurge procs or just using Starsurge in general to decrease the cooldown of your Starfall. And then minor glyphs, it doesn't really matter. I have Unburden, Rebirth, Dash, and Aquatic Form because I just didn't have anything else better to put in there. Alright, I would say that I'm going to show you guys my rotation for Boomkin, but as it is, there is no quote-unquote rotation for Balance Druids. It's really just a priority type deal. First and foremost, you have to have your dots on the target at all times. Your dots are Insect Swarm and Moonfire. Those have to be on there. Your main cast priority is Starsurge. If Starsurge is off cooldown or you have a proc, use it. Don't wait. Don't use anything else unless it's a dot. But Starsurge is your #1 priority. Then after that, depends on what eclipse you're in, or if you're working towards eclipse, working towards an eclipse. Obviously, if you're in a lunar eclipse, you're going to use Wrath, or lunar eclipse, you're going to use Starfire. Scratch that, Starfire. Or if you're working towards a solar eclipse, use Starfire. And then if you're in a solar eclipse, use Wrath. And if you're working towards a lunar eclipse, use Wrath. I would say that you need to use Wild Mushroom as much as possible, but that's debatable. Really, the only times that you should be taking time out of your quote-unquote rotation to get mushrooms on the ground is if you know a big AoE pool is coming up, or a lot of mobs are going to spawn, and you know exactly where they're going to spawn, and you can detonate them relatively quickly. Otherwise, you need to be focusing more on everything else going on. And Ryan seems to be trying to interrupt my my little video here. But anyways, I'm going to give you guys a little taste of what my druid can do. Alright, little status update. I'm doing about 19k DPS. Just hit 1.3 million damage. Waiting for my cooldowns to come back, and I will do another burst. Get my mushrooms back on the ground in preparation for my intellect cooldown. And here we go. And that's pretty much going to be it. If you have a hard time following, I will put all of this transcribed in the description. I'll also link my balance build in the description. And that's going to be it for the guide. If you have any questions for us, don't be afraid to leave that in the comments of this video, or send us an email at thegameroomchannel@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell everyone about the Game Room channel. We like your subscriptions, we like your support, we appreciate your support, and everything we do here is for you guys. So give us feedback. We like feedback a lot. Anyways, from the Game Room, I am Jared, and I'll see you guys soon-ish, hopefully. Yeah.